Hello there, I'm Janette Lane, a craft designer at CraftStash, and in today's video, I'm sharing how to make a quick and easy birthday banner, which I think you're gonna really enjoy. I know personally I would love to receive a birthday banner versus a birthday card, especially if it's handmade, just because, I don't know, it's extra special and I can hang it up and probably keep it up for my whole birthday month. I'm really into birthdays. I love my birthday and I love other people's birthdays too. Like, it's just fun celebrating someone. Let me know if you're the same in the comments below. Some people don't like birthdays, and yeah, that's fine too, but I particularly especially love birthdays. You can ask my coworkers. So anywho, sorry for that long-winded intro. Let's dive right into the tutorial. I really enjoy making banners because they come together so easily when you have the right tools and especially the right dies. So to make my banner, I'm going to be using the Creative Dies Plus Wonky Stitches banner, bunting die set. Sorry, it's not called a banner, it's called a bunting die set. And gosh, it's all discombobulated in the packaging because I just tossed it in there, so I apologize for that. So I'm going to be needing the largest bunting and also the second to the largest for this blue piece here. So let me grab my cardstock. I'm going to be using a few colors. I've got some pinks, some blues, and some purples, and I like that. It just adds a nice variation to my bunting banner, my banner. And so here I have some cardstock just cut to 6 by 6, just to, so I don't have to think about measuring and whatnot. So I've got that one missing. I feel like I'm missing one. Oh yes, sorry. So that one's, so there are, that's the basics, the foundation of my bunting banner, my banner that I'm going to be die cutting in just a bit. These wafer thin dies can cut through multiple layers of paper, but because they have that stitch detailing, I'm only going to be cutting one cardstock piece at a time because I don't want to lose any of that detail. So just a word of the wise, if you are planning on die cutting anything with stitching, just stick to one piece of cardstock at a time so you don't lose any of that glorious stitch detail. But if you don't care and you're pressed for time, then you can cut up to, I want to say up to 3 sheets of cardstock. That's not too heavy weighted. Now for the back side of the banner, I just used some scrap cardstock and just to create like a sandwich between my twine, which you're going to see in a bit. But all that is to say I need a backside color, just a bunted backside color. So let me die cut that, and I'm going to be using, let's just use some blue for that. And because I don't care about the stitch detail on the back, I'm going to die cut 2 pieces at a time to make this process a little bit quicker. Okay, so these are for the backs of my banner. So now I want to divvy out my doilies, and these are C'est La Vie by Tina Higgins, and they're couture creations, and they're available at CraftStash. And I absolutely love working with doilies just because they added like an instant fancy factor to your projects, but also they're great if you want to stamp right on them, and you can also spritz them with some color sprays and create some really fun colors. Like, you know, if you need an embellishment, I'm sorry, not an embellishment, but just an extra layer to your project and you want it to be a certain color, then doilies are great because you can ink them up. But you want to make sure they are on the thin side, so you want to make sure to not overdo it with with the color sprays or putting ink on them because they might tear. Next up, I'm using the Creative Plus Nesting Circle Wonky Stitches Nesting Circle dies. Sorry about that. And I'm going to be using the second to the biggest circle die to die cut that piece right there. So for my princess and my unicorn, and I'm going to be using a light blue for that. So let me grab some light blue cardstock so I can die cut that. Again, I don't want to lose any of that stitch detail in that wonky stitch detail because it's so wonky and it's so fun. So I don't want to lose that detail. And what I'm going to do is just die cut 1 piece of cardstock at a time. Now that I have the basics of my banner, what I'm going to do next is stamp. So I'm going to heat emboss in silver my unicorn and my princess, and also my sentiment and a little bit of the background of this paper. cardstock, sorry. And I'm gonna be using the Apple Blossom Enchanted Princess A6 stamp set. This is magical. I love this set. So we've got a sentiment I'm going to be using is Happy Birthday Princess. And then I'm going to be using May All Your Wishes Come True, as well as Unicorn and the Princess. This sparkle stamp, I put it on my stamping block. And I'm going to be using Distress ink in Tumbled Glass to just create a sparkly background for this centerpiece. I feel like it adds just a little bit of a, not a fancy factor, but just adds another like layer to your project. Just a tiny detail. It's almost watermarked. You can't really see it. It's very light, very subtle. As I'm stamping, I am rotating my stamp image just to get some variety in my print so it doesn't look so rigid, I guess you could say. And so I'm rotating it ever so slightly here and there just to give it a little bit of variety, a little bit of interest. I'm done with the background sparkle stamp, and as you can see, it's just very subtle. Just a hint of color. And next up, I'm gonna do the same thing, but I'm gonna be using the May All Your Wishes Come True sentiment. And I'm going to be using Broken China because the blue, this blue that I'm using is just a little bit darker. So I need a ink, stamp ink, that's gonna be just a smidgen darker as well. And I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just going to stamp all across to create a fun, subtle background. Okay, so I'm not gonna stamp this center here because it's gonna be covered by this piece. So there we go. That is good. Save ourselves some time. Next up, I'm going to be heat embossing in silver these two circles. So I'm gonna do Princess and Unicorn here. Okay, and now I'm going to activate the embossing powder with some heat, using my heat tool. And there's my silver princess. So I'm going to repeat the same process with the unicorn stamp. And last but not least, I'm going to heat emboss Happy Birthday Princess on this blue piece of cardstock. And I'm going to use some Nouveau embossing powder. This is in the color, I can't remember. It is color Ballerina Pink. The last thing I want to do is just add a little bit of color to the edges of my circles here. So I'm going to be using Tumbled Glass just to add a little bit of color. It kind of accentuates the silver embossing. So let me do that just This is totally optional, but I don't know, I just think it helps draw your attention to your stamped image just a little bit. And it's really quick, something quick that you can do to make your project just a little bit more interesting. And I'm also going to add a little bit to this bunting piece. I didn't do that in the original project that you see here, but I don't know, I feel like it might just bring it all together. Make it more cohesive, a more cohesive craft project. Plus it's very subtle, so it's not that big of a difference. Just a light touch of color along the edges. I really want to highlight the edges of the Wonky stitch, so I'm going to take a glitter jelly roll pen, and these are by Sakura, and they're available at CraftStash, and this is just in blue. And I'm going to trace the Wonky stitch. And this pen has a little bit of sparkle, this gel pen, and it's really cute. It just adds a little bit more glitz to my project. I almost said card, not card, my banner. There it is up close. You can see a little bit of sparkle. A little bit of that stitch detail just pop. It's a lot more clear now where that stitch detail is. Okay, so now it's time to assemble and embellish my banner. So I'm going to be using a few adhesives to put this all together. I'm going to be using foam tape, double-sided 3D foam tape, and also some liquid adhesive just to lay down my gemstones and also my flowers and my bow. I'm tucking the edges of the doily behind the bunting just so that I can wrap them in twine, which is my next step. So I'm going to wrap these a few times with twine. I like twine, it gives it just a nice little texture. I really like using twine in my projects just because it's very subtle, especially when you use the same colors in your project. So I have purple twine for my purple card stock and blue for my blue cardstock. And I'm just going to tie a knot at the back. This is going to be covered in just a bit with the backing of my banner. So just like that, it's going to cover it up. So just tying a quick knot. And then I'm doing the same thing with my pink twine. Did I say blue earlier? I do apologize. I meant pink. You can wrap this as many times as you want. I'm doing 3 wraps, and I'm also kind of not making them uniform. They're kind of crissy-crossy, as you'll see in just a bit when I rearrange them. But let me tie my knot first before I move on to the next step. So here I kind of have them crissy-crossy. Over here I did not do crissy-crossy, but it's fine. You can do that afterwards. Just kind of rearrange them, pull and tug on them just a bit, and there we go. Okay, now I'm going to use my foam tape to mount my heat embossed stamped images. Next up, I have this bow that I tied beforehand, and I'm just going to glue it down here in the center with some liquid adhesive. I really like this Cosmic Shimmer glue, acrylic glue. It dries clear and it's really strong, so you can definitely use it to glue some ribbon on cardstock, which is really helpful because sometimes it's a drag having to pull out your your glue gun and wait for it to heat up, and it just takes a while. But if you just give this time to dry, you can use this acrylic glue. It's really great. Next up, I'm adding some paper flowers from Nature's Grace, and these are purple and they're beautiful. I love to use paper flowers in my projects. I don't get to do it that often, but when I do, it's really exciting for me. I just get really giddy, really happy to be able to do that. So I'm really excited about using these. And I'm going to use just the little ones. I'm going to trim off the stems, and then I'm going to adhere them to the bunting with some acrylic glue as well. And now I'm going to add some gemstones right here on the corners with, again, my liquid adhesive. The gemstones I'm using are the Anita's Color Wheel gemstones, and I love these because there's so many colors in here. You really just need one. They last a really long time if you're careful, if you don't spill them everywhere like I do sometimes when you accidentally knock them. We're finally in the home stretch. I'm almost done with this project. The only thing that's left to do is to add my string and also the backs of these, just to cover that up so I can cover up the twine and any unsightly marks on the back. So what I'm gonna do is pick my twine. I'm gonna go with this blue. And I want it just about that length. You wanna make sure you leave enough on the edges so that it can be hung up on a wall. And it's okay if you leave extra on the edges, because then the person that you give this to can just trim it down, so it won't be a big deal. They can just trim it if it's too long. For this step, I'm using a combination of adhesives. So this is just a double-sided tape. And then I'm gonna also be using some liquid adhesive for the rest of my banner, which you will see what I mean in just a bit. Let me just remove this backing paper so that I can add my twine and kind of secure it in place. Just holds it in place and makes it a lot easier. Now I'm lining up my banners, kind of eyeballing it and seeing how far apart I want each bunting to be. So I think right there would be good. And now I'm gonna grab my twine and kind of eyeball the center. So I'm gonna fold it in half, make sure that's at the center, and just lay it across. Easy peasy. Now I can go in with my liquid adhesive, and then I can top it with, oops, having some problems here. Then I can top it with my bunting, my embellished bunting. Okay, so here is my completed banner. It's a good spacing between each piece. Nice length on the sides to hang it up on a wall, and I think I'm done. That's the end of the tutorial. I hope that you enjoyed making this easy birthday bunting banner. Everything that I used is available at craftstash.co.uk, where you'll find heaps and heaps of inspiration and how-tos. I'm Janette Lane, and I will see you all really soon. Have a great day.